Happy Monday, everybody. It is Monday, July 10th, and I'm going to be answering your burning questions, everything you want to know about selling life insurance over the phone. Based on my last post, I had asked you to post in the comments, what do you want to know? Any topic goes, any objection, anything at all. How can I help? My goal is to produce content that you want to see that is helpful for you when you're in the field or you're over the phone, whether you're on my team or not. The goal is to provide really great content so that you can have stronger, more sophisticated sales conversations. My name is Dana Neeson. I run a telesales team for Tailored Legacy across 17 states. We sell final expense insurance with one carrier. And here are your questions. First question comes from Halam6626. He or she asks, emotional-based selling, how to reach the emotions, being yourself, not hiding behind professionalism. A few topics I'd like to see. Well, emotional-based selling is my platform, right? It is exactly how I try to teach people how to sell. Do not stay surface with your customers. You have to go below the surface. If you hear information or you hear clues that may require clarification, additional probing, additional questions to get beneath the surface, that is how you get to the emotion. So for example, I had a coaching call this morning with one of my agents who wanted me to listen to a call that he did not close. The woman had an $18,000 policy and she was possibly looking to get more because she thought she may not have enough to take care of the funeral expenses. Now that is a surface level problem. What the agent failed to do was ask additional questions to understand, right? So the very obvious question I would ask is, why do you feel 18,000 is not enough, right? That one question will get your customer to stop and think about why they're looking for additional coverage in the first place. Your job is to challenge people into why they think the way that they think. So if she thought it wasn't enough because she wanted to leave additional money to her kids after the funeral expenses are paid for, well, that conversation is going to take me one direction. But if she doesn't think it's enough because funerals in her area are 25,000, well, that's going to take the conversation in a different direction. So clarifying information that you get will allow your customer to feel the real pain of why they want to make the change. And then asking consequence-based questions like, have you thought about what would happen if you weren't able to find something that was affordable enough to put in place so that you can leave this extra money to your kids? Like, is there a plan B? All of these things you can use throughout your conversation to hold your customer accountable, not just because emotionally they know it's important, but you also have to get the logistics. So it's logistics and emotion together typically will equal a sale. Hope that helps. Second question comes from JB1 Nation. The topic request, the science of best times to call seniors based on my experience, and then posted that I am a star. Thank you. I appreciate that. So there really isn't, from what I've seen, a better time to call seniors because most of the people who we are targeting are retired. They're living on a fixed income and they're pretty much home all day. So it's not like they're at work, right? We're not really dealing with people who want mortgage protection. I can tell you that the majority of our sales typically come in after 2 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. I don't necessarily think, though, that has anything to do with the fact of when people are home or not. I think that we have a higher volume of agents that hop into the system a little bit later in the day, so we have more coverage. But Possibly what you're going to be dealing with during the beginning of the day are doctor's appointments, visits from family. There will be more things that will come up during the day than in the later part of the day, but I wouldn't not call people because of that. I would say more important than when's a good time to call people is what is your schedule and are you going to stick to that? So if your schedule is you're going to dial from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., you dial, right? And if you want to segment part of your day to follow-ups, segment part of your day to calling like maybe your underwriting memos or your service reports, or maybe calling people that bought 6 months ago to check in on them and ask for referrals, you can segment your day that way. But no matter what, I would be on the phones for a certain amount of time, not really have anything to do when it's a good time to call people. Question 3 comes from, can we just love each other? 2550. This person says, this is great. I know you say a lead is a lead, and I think you're right. I'd just like to know exactly how you approach those who are aged leads. Great question, because I do believe that a lead is a lead, and doesn't matter if the person just inquired or if they inquired 2 months ago, 3 months ago. If they still need the help, then we're there to help them. Now, I don't necessarily know what you mean by an aged lead. We typically don't call people after 90 days because after that point, you're going to have to spend a little bit more time to scrub that lead against the DNC list and the litigators list and make sure you can legally call them from the time they inquired past 90-day mark. So my assumption is that your aged leads are 0 to 90 days. That's what we do. So when we're calling people, it is just assuming that they may have recently inquired, whether they inquired today or 2 months ago. It's the same thing. And if they say, I don't remember doing that, we just kind of brush it off. That's not a problem. That's not uncommon. It looks like at some point you may have expressed interest in wanting to protect your family if you were to pass away. Have you already put something in place to take care of that? Right? They say yes, great. How long ago was that? Because if it was just a month ago, well, while I have you on the phone, would it be reasonable to just offer you one more quote just to make sure that what you got was the best program available? And if you take that extra step and offer that in a very casual, non-confrontational, non-salesy way, you'll find that a lot of people who purchased, they will have some doubt. They're going to have some doubt in their mind that what they got, was that the right policy for them? And that will give you your in. So that's how we approach age leads, really no different than leads that had just inquired. And if your mentality, I think that's the other thing, you can't freeze, or your mentality can't be different if it's a new lead versus an age lead, because that may be where you're getting stuck because it's you, not the lead itself. And also remember, people's phones tend to cool off after a couple of months because less people are calling them now. So the answer rate actually typically picks up for your aged leads. Next question is from Asgar Khan 549. Objection. I want to discuss this with my family before I make any decisions. Okay, this is a good one. And I do have a video on this one right now on the YouTube page. But here's how we teach I want to discuss this with someone before I make a decision. And this is something that I learned using NEPQ. So what you're trying to do here before I tell you the response is you want to put the objection aside. You want to put it in a little box, lock the key, throw it away, and you want to focus on the value. If you go right in and react to the actual objection, you're going to lose because you're just going to make the client feel defensive. Sales resistance is going to go up and you're going to lose the sale. So you validate it. That's not a problem. Bob, I understand wanting to talk to your family about it. Put the objection aside. Let me just ask you. Putting your family aside for a second, is this something you would want to have? And if they say yes, okay. Would you mind sharing with me maybe why you think that it would help your family the most? Let your customer respond with why they like it. And if they've missed certain key points in their recap to you, based on your explanation to them, there was a big disconnect, and that means you failed somewhere in your sales presentation. But if they recap back to you everything that you said, you now recap to them. Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you think this would help your family because of X, Y, and Z, and really kind of the only thing preventing you from putting this protection in place for them is you just want to talk to them first. Am I understanding that correctly? Okay. Can I maybe make a suggestion? Because it seems to me that, you know, even if your family opposes this idea, that you probably don't want to put them in a position where they would have to come out of pocket and pay for it. Is that right? Right. Okay. So my recommendation would be maybe to start with maybe the smaller of the three options we went over, just to make sure we have the approval. And we can push the start date out by a week or two. So you have plenty of time to talk to your family before anything goes into effect. This will allow me to email everything over to you so you have some time to review it with them instead of just talking to them. And if you guys want to make any changes before it starts, just give me a call and we can make those changes. Would that maybe be a reasonable solution? Okay, so that's option one. Option two would be playing the pretend game, which is, that's not a problem. I understand you would want to talk to your family. That makes sense. Let me just ask you a question. If your family were here, what do you think they would say? Why do you think they would say that? Do you agree with that? Do you like that too? And now what if you go to your family and they say they don't like it? Like they are opposing the idea of you putting something in place to protect them. What will you do then? And a lot of times they'll say, I'll do it anyway. But if they say, well, I won't do it, then you would say, really? But is that what you want? Would you not want to put something in place to protect them if they don't want you to? Now you have to challenge them. You have to challenge what they would actually do if their family were to say no. I mean, is that the position you want your family to be in? Now you could put the family aside. Okay, let's just put your family aside then for a second. Is this something you would even want to have for them? Right? And then you go through that whole loop. So the point of the objection handling strategies here is putting the objection aside, going back to the value, why they want it in the first place, recapping that value to them, and then making a suggestion to move forward with the application. You cannot just discard their objection and put it aside and just push for the approval without going through the whole process first, because that will just cause confrontation. It'll act like you weren't listening to them and you will lose the sale. It is very, very important that you go through that process with them so they can actually, they can think about what they're wanting to do in their mind and make a decision to move forward. Good question. Next question comes from Kuda. Your methods to deal with constant rejection on rough days. There is constant rejection every day, right? And I think that on a day-to-day basis, when I'm on the phones, it is 80% rejection, right? That's just, it is what it is. And I don't know if you have been in sales prior to getting into life insurance, but I have over 20 years of telesales experience, and rejection is 80% of this business of sales. And so just knowing that that's what it is, that should help just change your mindset anyways. And when you do get the people on the phone that do want to talk to you about their options, that is when you have to be so strong and on point that you can't let those people slip through your fingertips. But as far as just the day-to-day rejection of people not wanting to talk to you, hanging up on you, being rude to you, trying to strong arm you, that's just normal. It's never going to go away. So you just need to be okay with that. And if you're okay with that going into your day and you expect it, it can't surprise you or put you in a bad mood because you were already expecting it to happen. You should be more surprised when you have good days with very little sales resistance. So it's just about changing your mentality. I expect it. It doesn't put me in a bad mood. I just say next, the closer I am to getting a yes with all the no's that I got before, right? That's that go for no principle. Next question comes from Miguel Verdus. I can't say it. Sorry. Can you talk about how to approach your leads systematically, as in how many times you are calling your leads, SMS campaigns, email campaigns, anything else? I've never seen anyone really break that down. Would love to see your approach to those things using the NEPQ frame. So the NEPQ frame didn't really teach me anything about how to systematically call my leads. It just talks about how to have a conversation with someone once you get someone on the phone. There are different laws by state as to how often you can contact a lead. For example, Florida. If you're licensed in Florida and calling leads in Florida, you cannot call, text, or email a combination of all three more than 3 times in one day. So you have to decide what method you want to contact your Florida leads. So if you're using text and email and phone, you may not want to use email because email has a less than 1% open rate. Everybody looks at their phone when a text message comes in. So you just have to make sure that your opt-in data for your lead allows you for the text message to be compliant. But for Florida, I would probably do 2 calls, 1 text in that day. For all the other states that we're in, we call our leads probably 5 or 6 times a day the first couple of days, and then we taper it off from there. 80% of sales take place between the 8th and 12th attempt, sometimes a little bit more than that, which again brings back to the point that aged leads sometimes have a higher close rate because they're cooled down a little bit. They're either going to close right away or they're going to close after several attempts. Very little closes in between that. So you have to stay consistent with those leads to get back to the point where it spikes up again. But I would probably say every 2 to 3 hours, we'll make a call attempt. We don't leave voicemails. And as far as SMS, we have a totally separate system that the agents are not involved in whatsoever because we have a compliance attorney. And so we have to make sure that we're TCPA compliant, that we're allowed to text the leads that we get. So that has a little bit more of an intricate detail that I really can't go into in this training. But as far as the leads go, that's how many times we call. Teresa Fuller writes, tonality training, please. That may have to be a completely separate video altogether. Tonality training is hard, but it's also not hard at the same time, right? When I'm talking to someone and I'm really passionate about what I'm talking about, you can tell, right? You have the energy, the enthusiasm. But if I'm also wanting to talk to someone about a serious topic, I might lower my voice. I might ask them, is that really what you want though? Right? In a soft, curious way. If I'm just relaying information about how something works, I might just have a neutral tone and ask them questions like, do you like what I just said about that? Is that something that you like? Why do you like that? Right? Just very neutral. I'm never acting overly excited and I'm never monotone like a robot. And a lot of that comes with practicing and rehearsing your script. You have to act as if you are an actor playing a part and the life insurance is your role. And the people that are on the other end of the phone, if you're doing telesales, all you have is your voice. And what I explained to my team is you have to treat this sale as if you were reciting an audiobook. You have to be so descriptive in your words, which is more than just tonality, because it's not just the words that you say, but it's how you say them. And the way you emphasize different words in your sentence, you can strategically get people to listen to a certain part of your sentence based on how you're emphasizing something. So if I were to say, look at that car, you're going to hear the word look, right? If I were to say, look at the car, you're going to hear the word car. Okay, so that's just an example of a very, very small piece of tonality training and how emphasizing words, how strong you say them, how soft you say them, how curious you say them will make people feel your sincerity and want to lean in to hear more of what you have to say. That's a really hard one to talk about in a short amount of time, but it's what I do a lot of coaching with my team. Okay, next question from Kenya Caldwell. Hi, Dana. I'd like to see some content on aged outbound leads. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but mostly from aggressive, fast talking boiler room type guys. And I feel like your approach would be much more helpful. So we kind of just covered that one with aged outbound leads. The approach for me is not any different. It's hi, Bob. Hey, Bob, this is just Dana calling. I noticed that you may have recently requested some information on protecting your family if you were to pass away. And I just had a chance to get back to you to see if I could help. And I'm pausing on purpose to get the objection because I know it's coming, right? So if you practice all of your objections, right, you should probably have 10 to 15 different responses that you are so rehearsed with that no matter what they say, you know what to say back. The reason that people get stuck on outbound calling is because you're not prepared for your objections. You don't know what to say, so you get stumped. You can't live in the world of getting stumped when you get an objection. I welcome the objection. I can't wait to hear what they have to say to me. So if they say, oh, I already took care of that, well, I'm immediately, without even thinking, oh, that's not a problem. How long ago did you get it? Right? Because if they got it a month ago, now I can come in with the previous thing that I said, which was, well, doesn't look like we had a chance to talk to you. You know, while I have you on the phone, would it be reasonable to offer you one more really quick quote just to make sure that you are offered the best program available? If they say, I'm no longer interested. Oh, that's not a problem. I understand. Are you maybe no longer interested because you think it's too expensive, or maybe because you think you can't qualify? Now, if they say, I didn't inquire. Oh, it's not uncommon. I understand. It looks like it may have been some time ago. But let me ask, do you currently have something in place to protect your family if you were to pass away? Yes, I do. Oh, wonderful. How long ago did you get it? Right? And we're right back to that. So you just have to be really, really comfortable in handling any objection that comes your way, so you're not surprised when you get it. The worst thing you can do is say, oh, sorry, hang up and move on to your next call because you've just burned a lead. You didn't keep your iron sharp, right? You got to keep sharp so that when you do get the person that wants to talk to you, you didn't give up too soon. Next question comes from Andrea with insurance. Hi, can we see more outbound call videos from you? I see a lot of videos on here with outbound calls, but it's more on the direct and straightforward side compared to how you approach things. I think you're asking for calls where I get some sales resistance. And I did actually just post a video of a live call where I got a ton of sales resistance, and you can hear how I handled it. I think it was the live sales call review. So you can go ahead and listen to that one. That's a perfect example. All right, next question comes from Dan Hammond. Mindset to combat call reluctance. That's a hard one. And it's one that I don't know I was prepared to help coach people on because I didn't even realize it was something that existed. In my opinion, the best way to combat call reluctance is practice, is rehearsing, is to say it out loud so many times you don't even want to hear yourself think anymore. You have to ask your friends, ask your spouse, ask your kids, ask your parents, ask anybody who will listen to you to let you rehearse with them. Rehearse on your own. Record yourself. You probably need to record yourself and say the script 100 times. And that's not even an exaggeration. If you have that big of call reluctance, you need to record yourself the first time, save it. You need to say it 49 more times, not necessarily in the same sitting, right? You need to spread it out a little bit because I want you to give 110% every time. And then I want you to record yourself on the 50th time, or maybe the 25th time, depending on how long it's taking you. And then I want you to compare those recordings. Then I want you to do it another 20 times, 25 times, and record yourself again. And compare yourself from the first time to the 70th time, and so on and so forth until you get to 100. You should be so comfortable with the words on that script By the time you log into your system and make those first phone calls, you should be so ready that you shouldn't be nervous at all. You have to remember that the people on the other end of the phone need your help, and they can't get it if you decide to not pick up the phone, right? You also have to think about, why am I in this industry in the first place? Making money aside, right? Why did you pick life insurance? Why is this the industry you want to be in? And if your answer is you actually want to help people put their families in a better position, you can't possibly do that unless you get out of your own way and make the decision to make calls. And you have to give yourself permission to fail, because failing is how we learn. There is no way that you can understand how to get better unless you learn from your mistakes. But the only way you can fail and learn from your mistakes is if you get out of your own way and pick up the phone. You just have to start. From Eileen Jasso. Buying signs. When am I wasting my time following up with a lead? Well, there's actually several questions in here, so I'll take one at a time. As far as following up, I personally try maybe 2 times, and that's it. I have so much opportunity at my fingertips that I'm not going to suck the living life out of every single lead that I have. So it's either a 1-call close. If I have to follow up, it's because of a logistical reason, or I just wasn't able to overcome the objection, which sometimes happens. I'm human. I'll follow up once, I'll follow up twice, and that's it. I'm moving on. The other part of the question was texting leads. Aside from compliance, how do we overcome objections during initial knee-jerk objections when we know as agents the Lincoln Heritage has a superior product? Well, that's your opinion, my opinion, but it may not be everybody's opinion. But they've filled out a preliminary app form and decided they were too expensive or suddenly not ready. Policyholder increases, letting them know the policy is on the way. Okay, this is a few different questions in ones. So for texting, I think one of the best ways to send out a text message would be simply by saying, "Hi, is this Jane?" Now, if you don't have the correct messaging for your opt-in data for your leads, then you may not be able to send text messages at all, but also you might have to have a little disclosure at the bottom of your text message. But let's just say everything aligns fine. You're doing it from your cell phone and you say, "Hi, is this Jane?" That's the best way to get someone to respond, right? Because they're going to respond and say, "Yes, who's this?" Now you know they're at their phone. So now you can come in and say, "Oh, hey, Jane, this is just Eileen. And I just had a chance to get back to you regarding your request for information on final expense protection for your family. Is now a good time?" Okay, so that's the best way to get a high response rate for texting. As far as their knee-jerk reaction in wanting to say no because they've already had a negative experience somewhere else, they're just looking for a reason to get rid of you. So sales resistance is really high. It's your job to lower it. So it doesn't really matter what they say. You just have to come in a very soft, non-confrontational way and say, "That's not a problem. I understand. Let me ask you a question. If you were to pass away, do you currently have something in place to make sure your family doesn't have to come out of pocket and pay for your funeral expenses?" You have to get away from whatever they're angry about, and you have to go back to why they want the product in the first place, because it's not the life insurance they want. It's the outcome of what the life insurance will provide. So if you focus on the outcome instead of on the thing, the insurance, you will have a higher chance of them lowering their walls and wanting to talk to you in the first place. The last part of this question was differentiating modified from other modified plans with other carriers. I mean, it's really no different, right? All modifieds typically have a 2-year waiting period with a return of premium plus interest. So the best thing for a Lincoln Heritage policy would be that, of course, if they pass away from an accident, which is true for everybody, the death benefit pays in full, but they do also have the free membership to the Guardian Society to help negotiate and price shop to make sure that their loved ones aren't overcharged or emotionally overspend while they're grieving. And no matter how much they end up getting from the death benefit, they'll have that membership to give their family peace of mind. All right, that was all of your questions. Thank you so much for commenting on that last post. It was really fun to interact with you in real time. I will definitely be doing that again. If you have any other questions after watching this video, feel free to post them here in the comments below. If you're interested in joining my team, feel free to schedule a discovery call with me. I'll post the link right here. We can have a chat about what it looks like and whether or not we might be a good fit for you. As always, I hope you have a wonderful sales day.